from Anu. Boom, boom, drum, it beats from Anu. We is your people, original people. They go west, they go east, they go north, they go south. Where are my people? Right here. My beautiful people. Right here. Ancient of days. Right here. Faces engraved. Right here. Birth from the spirit. Right here. Just here for a minute. Right here. Ruled from a cloud. Right here. Sing it out loud. Broken, scattered, but we still not forgotten. Yes, we scatter, no matter. Right from the source, we scatter, no matter. We is your people, original people. They go west, they go east, they go north, they go south. Right here. If you don't know where you're from, right here. Talk to your elder. Right here. And if you don't know where to go, right here. Talk to your elder. Right here. We build the kingdom. Right here. 1,000,000 families strong. Right here. Living the culture. Right here. Of giants from the stars. One, right? I get my ones now. I know I was just talking to myself. Peace, everyone. Greetings. Welcome. I am Chief Yuya, and you are here tuned into the our opening. Thank you for the one, Master Menelec. I see it. And Sister Maria, thank you for the one. One now. I know. I was just testing y'all. But yeah, we are here, of course, with our Sabbath opening. We always come into our sixth day, or rather our seventh day, with some level of just mind stretching, tilling the mind a little bit, if you will. So I want to thank you all for, coming through and being a part of that. We started a little bit later this evening, but it's all good. Sometimes we end earlier, sometimes we end later. So, time, just like it speeds up, it slows down. It's never on the grid. that people think it's on. It's just sort of in their imagination. You know, so of course, also every Sabbath, we also do a Sabbath Insight, which would be tomorrow at noon. I'm just going to say it now early, get it out the way. For those of you who are new timers coming in, welcome. For our regulars coming in, welcome, and give thanks for everyone just taking this time to kind of just feed the soul, feed the mind a little bit and get yourself into a space where you can actually start to ascend, and know where you're at and where you're going when you ascend. I decided on tomorrow's segment, or rather the Sabbath Insight, I wanted to really get into some of the symbolisms, or the symbolism that I'm kind of seeing floating around 24. That's interesting. That's Jupiter's number. I'm going to talk about Jupiter a bit tomorrow. Actually, really not just Jupiter, but the Jupiter-Saturn connection. There's been so much Saturn play that's been like in people's faces as of late. And if you don't know what to look for, then it's kind of really easy to sort of have your reality hacked, if you will. And oftentimes that's what's happening. I've had people before like ask that question, like, why do we need to know this? Like, why are we learning this? And it's like, do you want your reality hacked? Like, are you okay with that? And not just that, the idea of understanding that the demiurges look for people to rule over, and in particular, look for angelic entities to rule over. And the angels are the Malachim, or the messengers. And I know a lot of times we think that the angels are extraterrestrials, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're terrestrial people like us. We're angels. And sometimes you have people who will get hacked into, like how you can have a serpent get hacked into by another entity, and that serpent can then try to work against an angel and get an angel to fall. Some people call that Angel Eve, or sometimes there are certain destructive mindsets that can be inserted into the psyche of an angelic person, of a higher functioning person. We call those traps, or those prisons, the seven deadly sins. Whenever you hear that talk about the seven deadly sins, like we all have the propensity, we all have the a possible sort of opportunity to access the door and open the door to the seven deadly sins. What those are symbolic, or really metacognitive prisons that are put into the psyches of higher functioning people to sort of keep them off kilter, to keep them in balance, So, there's a desire to sort of perpetuate a spiritual blindness. And, a lot of that was generated by the archons. I don't know, some of you might remember the segment I did on the archons, or not the segment, but like the talk I did. I think some of you said you did still find it on YouTube, but understanding that the archons, they're always looking to control you in different ways, so sometimes when we start studying some of this stuff, you can go down such a deep sort of rabbit hole, and you start putting things together, and it's like, nah, that can't, that can't, huh? Like I was sharing with someone, actually it was just earlier today, and I was speaking about Kamala. I don't know if it's Kamala or Kamala, but Kamala Harris. And I was sharing, I was like, yeah, a lot of times, sometimes people don't realize like how intricate the planning of certain things are. And I was sharing that, in terms of like what we would call like the Chinese astrology, if you want to use that term, but whatever. Kamala is actually, she was born in the year of the dragon, and in fact, the wooden dragon. And I was sharing that because someone was asking me about, like, he's like, you were saying that America, or Amaru, is the shining serpent, so Amaru Ka, or Amaru Ki, or America, or Ameriki is the land of the shining serpent, or the land of the dragon. And so I threw that little nugget in there. I was following, I was like, yeah, well, check this out too. Kamala was actually born in the year of the dragon. And I said, you know what? the year is now? And they're like, no, I said, it's the year of the dragon. And what's interesting is, in particular, we're in the year of the wooden dragon. And Kamala was also born in the year of the wooden dragon. Kamala was the year of the wooden dragon, and Trump is actually the year of the fiery dog, the fiery dog. If you again study Chinese astrology, I used to study it and really kind of dig into it really heavy when I was like much, much, much younger. I mean, like preteens. It was something that I just thought was like really cool, these different years and, some of the correspondences there, or rather, I should say the synchronicities, but there's so much symbol that's thrown in front of you sometimes, and you may not realize it. You may not realize, like, well, okay, it's the year of the wooden dragon, and Kamala was born in the year of wooden dragon. Does that mean anything? And how would the wooden dragon and the fiery dog, which is Trump, if you think like, yeah, he's always saying something, it's always coming with the fire, he's like a dog kind of energy. Is there anything to that? Is there anything spiritual to that, or anything metaphysical or esoteric, to that? Yeah, there's an exoteric story that we look at, and then there's an esoteric story that we look at. But, I had kind of just made in my mind, I was like, yeah, on Sabbath, there's a lot of symbols that are around us right now. There's a lot of kind of funky stuff that's happening. And sometimes it's a lot of work to study all of this stuff, to read documents and things like that. And you should, but sometimes the symbols are like so blatant, like they're right there in front of you that, not to say you don't have to study, but if you understand the language of the symbols, then things get a little simpler for you. They get a little bit easier for you to kind of like follow the story along, because as I said, like before, history doesn't repeat itself. People like to say that, but people like to say anything that they think sounds cool. But history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme. And if you understand like where the pentameter or the rhythm structure is for history, you'll start to understand when the verse is, you're about to get another word that rhymes, or you're about to get another moment that rhymes, or another event that rhymes. You'll start to realize that like history's rhyming. There's things that we're seeing over and over. I think I had shared before, I was talking about the Knights Templar, and I know I'm going to get into this in tomorrow's noonday segment a bit, but you wouldn't have the Knights Templar if you didn't have the Hashashin. So like one of the things that I found very interesting about the opening for the Paris Olympics was there was a Hashashin on a horse that was riding, and of course that Hashashin, you're supposed to look at it and think Assassin's Creed, the video game. But the video game Assassin's Creed is based off of the Hashashins, right? Especially the first version of the game, they really actually tapped into the actual history of the Hashashin and who they were, where you get the word assassin today, So yeah, man, when I saw that, I saw him riding on the horse with the hood. And it's like you have the exoteric and then you have the esoteric. So I had people have been coming to me about this Paris Olympics, and it's like, you see how they disrespecting Christianity and this and that and that. And I'm like, you coming to the wrong person with that one. Like, you're coming to the wrong person with that one, because some of this stuff is like so blatant and there's so much in your face that it becomes boring after a while. It's like some of the responses that sometimes people have, because the Hegelian dialectic is, there's a problem, there's a reaction, and then there's a solution. So you're constantly, we talk about hacking reality. You're constantly kept into this place where you can't think. That's actually called amygdala hacking. So, like when something is happening and you're calm and you're able to speak and you're able to kind of work and reason your way through it, you're using more of your frontal cortex, right? Or your frontal lobe. And then what happens when you're in a fear state, your energy goes to your amygdala, right? So you have certain, experiences that keep you in a fear state. So you're always back there at the amygdala where you're not using any logic, right? So constantly you're looking, you might look at the opening of the Olympics and like, man, this looks crazy. And like, they're about to do something. Oh my goodness. Now you're in this fear state. Now you're not thinking. And then another thing that happened. Oh, they tried to assassinate the president. Oh, so you're constantly getting your amygdala hacked because the way you're triggered into reaction is tied directly into your social media algorithm, right? So something will be shown where it puts you into this fear state where you're not thinking, or you're not thinking logically. Let me put it that way. And then a couple of days later, something will show up on your feed, and it will be speaking to that thing. Like here's one. I noticed on my feed, I'm always getting these like memes and stuff about how people have been leaving the church, and like people are leaving the church in droves, and that people are opting out of religion. But I actually read a report, and there's been a huge uptick in people's attendance at different religious institutions since COVID. So on my timeline, I'm always going to see that people are leaving the church because that's the narrative. That's the algorithm that I live in. The I don't want to say anti-religion, but we'll say anti-Babylonian institute disguising itself as religion. So I'm always going to see things that's going to say, oh, people leaving the church, people leaving the church. But that's not actually true. So that's in a form of like hacking. So what happens now, once I'm clicking like on something that is, or I'm looking at a video, something that hacks my brain, and I'm put into that space, then now I'll get on my timeline things that support that. Then after I get things that support that, then maybe a month later, there'll be a product that'll come into my advertisements that'll be the answer for whatever it is that I'm afraid of. It was an interesting article I was reading. I was doing some research on Amazon and just their whole, like, I study a lot of import export stuff because I actually have an import export business. And I was just studying like their shipping and their rates and how they able to do things. And come to find out, Amazon pre-orders items for people. And I found that to be so very interesting. So what that means is, based on your buying trends and even your social media trends, Amazon can sort of predict the type of stuff that you're going to want to buy, you personally. And it will, so that's what some things you'll go to order. It's like, oh, we can have it there tomorrow morning. Because it was already ordered. It's already in a location, a warehouse near to where you live. That's a form of hacking, right? So if I see, oh, the president, somebody tried to ex-president, somebody tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Oh, boom, I'm in the amygdala. Then what's going to come on my timeline is going to be like, the immigrants are coming. The people from the Latin countries, they don't even come over anymore. It's only the Chinese who are coming across the borders, and they have encampments. They're sleeper cells. Now I'm like, oh my goodness, there's sleeper cells all around me. I don't know who's who. Then a month later, I'll see an advertisement for like home security cameras. Well, I'm gonna need those. You gotta have your home security cameras. And it might be other things on top of that, but it's going to be based on, it's the Hegelian dialectic, it addressing that fear. So a lot of times, man, we are hacked. Like I said, I saw the symbology of Assassin's Creed, and I was like, yeah, this is some Knights Templar. That's what that is, because they predated, the Knights Templar, and also the Knights of Moloch, they were a wild bunch as well. They were a wild bunch, and then a lot of these different organizations turned into like the Skull and Crossbones. They turned to other societies, but even the Red Cross. The Red Cross, is nothing but the Rosicrucian, the Rose Cross, but you see the Red Cross. We saw a movie recently, Insidious, The Last Key, where they had that Red Cross, That's the Rosicrucians, But yeah, man. So just some of the stuff been on the brain. What's going on, brothers?
Hey, peace, Chief.
Peace,
What's
peace.
that? Peace.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Akio Kura, you might as well jump in. I know you jumped in because of that Ezio from Assassin's Creed.
Oh no, man. Well, I didn't play all the Assassin's Creed, but when it first came out, I was also very interested in it because of the Hashashin. You know what I'm talking about, and where it would go. And it was always, if you ever played the game, there's always this cat and mouse game between, basically the Hashashin and the Templars. One playing off each other. You get me, I'm gonna get you back. For world domination or whatever. And it's all, it's all history for me, what I'm talking about, depending on, what game you go through. Sometimes you go to Italy, then you go to Nassau, that's Assassin's Creed Black Flag, what I'm talking about, and then you go to, England, during the industrial age, and then you go to, Assassin's Creed's origin, when you go to Egypt and whatnot, and then you go to Assassin's, it's a lot. But I think the more modern ones, really just went all over everywhere and it didn't make no sense. That's what some gamers will say. But I mean, it's not just that, but what you was talking about with history. I mean, yeah, everybody ain't gonna study everything, what I'm talking about. But at least for me, because I like it, it's fun just digging, what I'm talking about, just digging with, with the little things Chief gives and whatnot. Like when he gave out that date, what I'm talking about, I, of course, I'm on a fact finding mission and whatnot, and then I, come across, Constantine, and he instituting, Sawdell Invictus, where he changes, Sunday to be the day of rest. I'm talking about, and things like that. I was like, I didn't know that, so I didn't know that. Or yeah, or like, the celebration of birthdays, and I knew they see we don't celebrate birthdays, but the celebration of birthdays was a Roman thing. Hebrews didn't celebrate that. And then on top of that, just the institution of certain temples to take from the Hebrews and other people, like, we're gonna take this, we're gonna take that, just so we can bring that in, so we can include. I was like, oh, that's very interesting. What I'm talking about. But yeah, history don't repeat itself, but this certainly does rhyme. Like sometimes, I with all the things that go on, it for me, it's like, be aware of the propaganda machine. When you see all these things going on, remember the Rocksteady fire, something like that. What I'm talking about, and see what happens. See what happens. But yeah, things like that does hijack your brain. If I would say, you live in that emotional unawareness state where you just then it got you, but that's why you have to have a memory, because if you have a memory, you'll know that, oh, this rhymes with this. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I've seen presidential assassinations before. That's a very good one. You know what I'm saying? Here I am trying to figure out, oh, somebody got grades. Usually when there's a president assassination, they don't miss. You know what I'm talking about?
One shot,
one kill, or three. Triangulated fire, magic bullet.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, man. I mean, and then you have all it's immigrants. It's there, and when that happens, I was like, it reminds me of what Dr. John Henry Clark says, how the U.S. has always been, the world's, toilet, or garbage waste dump. You know what I'm talking about? Everybody does it, and if you pay attention to history, you be like, that show is right. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, I'm done. Go ahead, Ambassador.
Cool, man. Good points.
Yeah, man, for sure. I didn't know it's funny, I was just talking about birthdays earlier today, and how like some people would be like, well, you don't celebrate birthdays, well, why? And it's like, well, why do you? You don't know why you do it, but you try to question why I don't do it. well, tell me why you do it, and I'll tell you why I don't do it. I didn't know it was a Roman thing. I didn't know where it came from, but that's the point. Why am I celebrating this thing? I don't know where it came from. I was actually thinking on the terms of the idea. I was thinking about this today. The idea of enlarging a person, enlarging um, what they view the world to be. It's kind of similar to what you're talking about, Chief, about having your brain kind of hacked. On these social media spaces, like, you have access to everything, but you don't have access to everything. Like, everything is on there, but you get stuck in like a filter bubble where you only get stuff that's catered to you. So you don't get the fullness of what's actually on the platform, because you got to go through all these codes and algorithms to actually get to different content. So it's almost like a bubble that you're in. And I was thinking about that because I was looking into the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I was like, I thought this thing was finished. I didn't, like, they found some more in that same area like 3 years ago. I was like, oh, they still finding stuff. I thought this book was complete. So it's just like another thing that kind of enlarges your view of what the world could be. And then I started looking for like precepts, like, how does this occur in the book or in scripture? And what I come across was when the children of Israel first crossed over, and they were attacked by the children of Amalek, and they were told to they were even told to go and scout out different places. And when they chose one person from each tribe, who was like a chief or a ruler in the tribe, and say, all right, go spy out the land, see if it's lean or fat, check the people, see how they live in. And they went and they got like some clusters of grapes, and because it was the season where the grapes are first ripening, and they got some clusters of grapes, and they got some pomegranates from near this river. And then they went back to report, and it was like, how was it? And they were like, it's a lot of stuff there. It's some good land, but, and we going to say right after the but is where Satan comes in.
Right.
They got some giants over there, y'all. Like, we can mix with them, And you had Caleb, who's from the tribe of Judah. He was like, yo, and it's like, it said Caleb stilled the people, like, yo, we can do this. But the other 11 was like, we cannot do this. Abort mission. Go back across the river. And I was thinking about they were confronted with a view of the world that wasn't what they expected. It was much larger than what they expected. I was just thinking about how different types of people respond to that in different ways. You have some people who shun it and try to crawl back into the mouse hole or their smaller space. And then you have other people who embrace it and are all in, yeah, let's go into a bigger world. We were in this small world for such a long time. We didn't realize so much here. Let's explore. Let's see what we could get. I was just thinking about that, and it came back to mind when you were saying people's minds getting hacked or getting steered into certain corners, and not really being able to grasp the bigger picture, especially if you're not around other people who have that similar type of thinking, because you won't get everything, but willfully you're surrounded by people who get the stuff that you don't get.
Yeah, I think some of that, the responsiveness to that is it's based on your DNA. What frequencies are you primarily living inside of? I think that a good example of that was a movie we watched recently was They Live. Where it was based on your genetic structure, you can be hacked in a certain kind of way that others may not be hacked in the same sort of way. So some may say, oh, there's giants over there, or because even that concept, there are different terms. You have the Anakim, you have the Gibbarim. The Gibbarim were called the mighty ones, and a lot of times the Gibbarim, which Geburah in your Kabbalah, which means strength, or stronger, where you get Gabriel, it just goes on and on. But that Gibberim, the concept there is like these are mighty ones. So these could be considered giants too. But it's like, are you related to them? You know, so like, are you like, oh man, that's just Craig and them. You know, they ain't gonna mess with them. They ain't, you know, that's the homie. Or is it like this is something so foreign from me based on how I'm being programmed? You know, I think They Live again was a great example of that, because like you had John Nada, who's like, as soon as he figures out things are off, he's like, oh no, we gotta stop this. I believe in America. I believe. He's like, Whereas, you know, like Frank is like, man, leave it be. I got a wife and kids. Leave it be. You know, so I think that was an example of how sometimes we're wired or we're susceptible to certain. It's almost like how some people have trouble being out in the sun and others don't. You know, I think in the same instance, we could say the same thing for the moon, you know, because the moon, in my estimations, it's just my own thing. I think the moon has been hijacked because there's too much of our legends and our mythologies that speak about the amazing and wonderful effect that the moon has on people. You know, before you get into the concept of the lunatic, which came much later, right? But the moon has this wonderful, I mean, what it does for agriculture alone, you know, but it doesn't really have that effect on a lot of people anymore. Now it makes people crazy. You know, so I think just like, you know, sometimes we look at ourselves and we understand, like looking at a movie like They Live or The Matrix, you have been hijacked. Your thoughts have been hijacked. Well, the things that exist in the cosmos, in the heavens, are but a reflection of us and vice versa. So I think the moon is now transmitting a different, because I think the moon is a satellite. I think it's now transmitting a different frequency because our women are transmitting a different frequency. You know, so as above, so below. I think, and I saw in the chat that Jamie asked, would Shamash be the same God as Sol Invictus? You know, I think that's an example. Like, well, first Shamash that's out of Mesopotamia. And Shamash was a part of a trinity of archetypes, where Sol Invictus was the Roman Empire. Once you start talking about Sol Invictus, but you had Sol Invictus and you had Sol Indiges. You had two of them, you know. So it was, you know, one was kind of handling agriculture and one was like the eternal unending, but they were like sort of like, you know, they had different roles. I think it's important to understand, like, when you're looking for the commonalities and these different gods, it's like you had Ea, right? Like Ea is spelled E-A, but Ea is another form of Inky, right? Now we have EA Sports, you know, but another form of Inky, who is also another form of Ptah, who could also be considered another form of Vishnu, you know. So as you travel through time, first off, to keep the hacking happening, you know, these deities have to change their names so that you don't have the association. It's almost like when you look at Jewish people. A lot of times they'll tell you that they have trouble really tracing their roots because they were kicked out of so many different countries that they weren't able to maintain proper records. So a lot of their genealogical records were just word of mouth, you know, for the most part, but they were separated and kicked out and moved around and things like that. So there's like a constant, each place we go, and I don't say we, I notice I said Jewish. Each place that they went, there was this new sort of like even a changing of names. Well, I'm here in America, I'm in Hollywood, I gotta, you know, just call me Harry Gold. I thought you were Harry Goldstein. No, not anymore. You know, so we got to switch it up. Or like the Rothschilds were extremely instrumental in establishing the Israeli state, but there's no Rothschilds in Israel. How you go through all that work and you don't even live there? Or are
living ones? That's a
what's
dead one.
that? Right. Or maybe you got a different name over there, because everyone has a different story. If you speak to a Spanish Jew or a French Jew, you know, or an American Jew, there's a different story, you know, going straight across, you know. So I think it's similar to like the question Jamie was asking about the different deities, like Sol Invictus versus Shamash. They are a different vibration based on what those people are requiring and needing in that time. You know, like you go from no, not Inky, I'm sorry, I meant Enlil. You'll go from Enlil is one thing in one space, but then when he's in Kemet, he's Ptah. But Ptah is darn near, I mean, he deals with clay and pottery, but he's darn near a blacksmith. You know, but if you understand his purpose, then he becomes Hephaestus, you know, where he's making the tools for the gods, for Zeus, in fact, right? But Enlil is over the water. So you would think that, well, shouldn't it go Enlil than maybe Poseidon? That would seem like a better matchup. But it's different archetypes are sort of evolved, even in name, based on the regions that they're at. They become something different. I mean, when Yahweh Shai was here, he said, I'm the Tao. He said, I'm the truth, the Tao, or the way, and the light. So therefore, his followers were called followers of the way. They weren't called Christians. That didn't happen until they got to Antioch. That was not their name. They were called followers of the way because he was the way, right? Well, you don't say that anymore. Nobody, if you said that, it sounds like a cult. You know what I'm saying? We are followers of the way. You know, like, so you say, oh, he's a Christian, right? But ultimately, these different names, they're used to hide and mask what's really underneath. Every religion is that. Every religion is a mask. You know, religare, to bind, to hold back, to reread. But what are you holding me back from? Ultimately, you're holding me back from a direct connection with the Creator. So when Yahweh Shai came, he did away with the religion. He was like, nah, like, let me show you how to make a straight connection. And they were like, no, let me show you how to die. You know, like, you will die a good death. No, I don't want to. Oh, you will. You know, like, that's not what I want. You know, so it's like the religion becomes the middleman that holds you back from actually actualizing who and what you're supposed to be. So, but that those different religions are under different mask, you know, and that's kind of thing. Like I said, you look at the opening. I'm going to speak about it tomorrow, but like the opening to the Olympics, you see this dude riding on the white horse, the assassin on the white horse. Of course, there's an assassin on the white horse. There was just an assassination attempt on the president. Like, we know what that means. And you got to remember, like, France is super Catholic. They are crazy Catholic. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? That's where Notre Dame is. Like, they don't get no more Catholic than France. You know, so you got this. It's really a carnival. That's what the opening of the Olympics was. It was a carnival. So you got this carnival happening. Like, imagine if that was in an Islamic country. Heads would have been rolling if you would have had a depiction of Muhammad. Heads would have been rolling. Like, even right now, we be in our houses like, you know, you think it's over yet? Nah, they still, you know, they still out there taking out infidels. You know what I mean? So you have this super Catholic space. They had a depiction of the Last Supper with Transformers who were, then it turned into an orgy, and they had a little girl there, right? Like, there was so much there. Then you had a brass bull in the background. See, a lot of times, like, if you don't know the symbols, you'll always think the brass bull is Osiris. You know, I know Bobby Hemmings always say, all right, man, so that ain't nothing but Osirian energy right there. You know, No, that's Marduk, or who we also call Molech. When you see that bull, in particular the brass bull, that's a sign that Molech, that they're worshiping Molech. You know, so you have Molech there, and you had a little girl there in the beginning. She's dancing next to a transformer who had his nutsack out. Yeah, his nutsack. Some people caught it. His nutsack was out, and there's a little girl there, and like there was all kind of stuff that they just was like throwing in your face. But you got to kind of like I said, there's mass. There's a plan within plan. They said in Doom, you know, plan within plan, or as in, you know, Elijah Muhammad said, wills within the will. You know, the master plane. He looked up and Ezekiel saw a will within a will. You know, there's plans within plans. So like one could be like, man, Assassin's Creed, like they must have paid crazy to get that advertising for the Olympics. Or they're saying like, look, this is Tupac, hit him up. We'll get you when and where we want to get you. Because that was, see, a lot of times when we think about like, we be watching like I grew up like on Get Smart, Maxwell Smart with the phone in the shoe and stuff like that. But you know, it evolved to Inspector Gadget, I guess, in later years and stuff like that. But you know, the whole concept of like a spy, you watch spy films and it's like somebody goes, they join the CIA, and then like, you know, while they're in training or when they're right out of training, somebody approaches them and says, I have a special squad I want you to join. And that, man, you believe that garbage if you want. You got to understand Salahuddin for you to understand how spies work. Salahuddin was no joke. Salahuddin used the Hashashin at that time. And I remember at one point, I feel like this was in the movie Kingdom of Heaven, I think. It might have been in that movie. But there was a scene where, or this was something I read. I read this, but I feel like I also saw it in the movie too, maybe. Where he's speaking to this ruler, and he's basically telling the ruler, like, yo, you gonna get down with, like, you gonna, you know, convert and join in what we talking about, or you want to keep acting up, right? And dude was like, he had his you know, his special guard next to him. So he's like, yo, who are you talking to like that? Like, you impotent, you know, they always say you impotent, you know, and you know, peasant you. So Salahuddin says, you know, oh, like basically like, oh, you think you good? So he's like, yo,
you think you gonna do this the hard way.
Right. He was like, you gonna do it the hard way. So he's like, yo, they'll take your life right now. So the dude's own guards pull their swords out. So Salahuddin was letting them know, like, your special guard, those are my guards. So that was the whole science with the Hashashin. It was like, we will lay low. You know, the process the process you have to go through to become the king's guard. But the whole time, these cats were Hashashin, working for Salahuddin. So how long was this process of them being handpicked and all of that? Probably from when they were little boys. But they were born for the purpose of taking your head off if somebody gave them the signal. And then after you find out that, oh, my special guard is, then you like, well, who else then? My cook, my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So when I saw that intro, oh, Jamie, no, okay, you saw it, yeah. When I saw that intro with Assassin's Creed riding on the horse, I was like, yeah, there it is. Like, and then the assassination attempt on Trump, I'm like, they letting cats know, like, it could happen. Like, don't forget who's really running, because I have always felt like Trump is still running the country. I never felt like he stopped running the country. Like, I don't fall for the hokey doke. We already know that it's rich families who run the country. Everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. Would we not assume that Trump is one of those rich families? So just because I come off the podium, it doesn't mean that I'm like, he like, yo, Sleepy Joe. He just like he mushing him in the head. Then he was on Air Force One recently. That's supposed to be for presidents.
Right.
He riding on Air Force One with his feet up. Then he's golfing the day after Saturday, and he was like, remember he hit a nice putt. He hit it, and it went right in. And he was like, yeah, I don't miss like my would-be assassins. I don't miss. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, yo, I never got out of the presidency. I'm still running the country. This is just my theory. You know, I could be off. I'm not a big politic guy, but I certainly am a big agenda guy. You know.
Yeah, I've been wanting to delve into espionage and spies, you know, with the books. Like, I wanted to get Gideon spies and books on the dang on, you know, MI6, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because it's very interesting, because like you say, it's not like it is in the movies, you know what I'm saying?
No.
Like, what movie that I like that was interesting to me, the TV show and the movie was Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. You know, where it's MI5 and there's a takeover, you know what I'm talking about, within the system, you know, within the, you know, the community. And then this one spy has to figure it out. Who's the mole? You know, this still doing, you know, Cold War era and whatnot. But it was very interesting because you don't have all this, you know, sort of like, it's very grounded. You know what I'm talking about? It's very grounded, you know, and it's like during like the 60s, 70s or whatever. But it's like, yeah, man, you know, you ain't a gangster, you can get touched. You know what I'm talking about? It be like that. You know what I'm talking about? But espionage has always been interesting because it's subtle and it can be compromised through not just, you know, the intelligence agencies, but also, you know, like, I know you know this, Chi, but shoot, they straight up recruit out of college. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? They recruit out of college and they got the installations in the colleges, you know what I'm talking about? So, I mean, yeah, some people, you know, that's what you also have to be paying attention to, you know what I'm talking about? Because I remember when I was in college, shoot, the FBI was there, recruit, you know what I'm talking about? And it was interesting because they came to the history department, like, why us? You know, but yeah. They came straight to our department, but yeah, man, it's very interesting because, and also the founding and the funding of these intelligent groups, that's also very interesting. So
it is, yeah, their origins, man. Yeah, even them recruiting like history students, like, okay, obviously there's something in their profiling that lets them know these are the type of people who would. I think even when you study history, there has to be a certain objective indifference, you know, where you can see like you see the bigger picture, you know, that may be something. But like even the MI5, MI6, man, like a lot of these organizations, man. So what's the one in France? Is it the French Legion?
French Foreign Legion. I know that's military though. I don't know what's the secret.
No, yeah, but there's something within the French Foreign Legion. I know that because those dudes are rough. A lot of people think like French people are soft, man, but even in boxing, they always turn out some real vicious boxers. French guys are not soft. I don't know. I mean, because the way they talk, they boo boo and all that, but. Man, them dudes there's some rough guys. You know, them legionnaires.
Think about the free love and whatnot, you know, but they was once like, look, medieval days, man, they was a real.
They were the wildest ones.
They was wild.
They are nothing to play with, man. But yeah, man, like
you know, they was where you can get the nice one, the Chevalier and whatnot. They was the ones that had it and whatnot, you know. So it'd be a lot, man.
Yeah, they savages, man. You know what I mean? Like. But yeah, like I think I was seeing the MI5, MI6, man, like they had occult origins. And there was a lot of talk at one time about Aleister Crowley actually being a member of the MI5. You know, like he was actually a part of the secret intelligence agency because they were also at one point like bringing psychic people in because they had their own what was it called? Operation Mirror. They had their own Operation Mirror program where they were trying to remotely, like view astral view on people. But there was a lot of strong talk about Aleister Crowley. And if people are not familiar with Aleister Crowley, man, he's someone who very evil person. To understand Aleister Crowley, you have to understand another man by the name of Gilda Ray. Nobody talks about Gilda Ray at all. But Gilda Ray was a dude back in the days. I think this was 1600s. I could have the date, maybe 16, somewhere around there. He had gotten no, I think it was the 1600s when they brought his trial back up. I don't know, somebody could find it, but he had abducted a bunch of children. He used to abduct children and he would sodomize and then cut their limbs off. And this was ritualistic. This was a thing he did. And it was his assistant who finally told on him, who told what was happening. And of course he was found because they found all these bodies, these little children. And what he would do is like, his assistant said, like the children who had the most beautiful limbs, like after he would decapitate them and cut them up, he would like look at the limbs, like hold them up to the light and like kiss the limbs and stuff like that. Like he was a real sick dude. But this was a person who Aleister Crowley said that he was, what did he call him? The perfect alchemist or something like that. He was in total awe of Gilda Ray. So, like some of these people, like you don't, and then now you have then MI5, MI6, they're working with Aleister Crowley. So it's like, how could you be associated with something like this unless you have some origins that sort of justify some of that level of ritual or that level of demonic activity? Yep, that's around the 1400s. Because I think it was the 1600s that the OTO, they had his case brought back up for trial, and he was actually exonerated, which I found very interesting. Yeah. 200 years later, they had his case retried, and he was exonerated. But everybody knew, like, he took all these children, he killed them, he sodomized them, he cut their bodies up, like he was eating some of them, like it's no secret, but it just goes to show you like what this culture actually does find acceptable. Yeah, I think that is DSP. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I just looked it up. But yeah, I know the name Gilda Ray, but I didn't. I'm like, yeah, he did something crazy. Like something before Jack the Ripper. It was like, yeah, he
right.
Was, but
he was on steroids. Like he was. Wow, people thought Aleister Crowley, like it was Gilda Ray, man. Peace, Chris. Peace, brother Chris.
I'm sorry, I haven't been on. I work on a Sabbath. My goal is to get away from working on the Sabbath.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why I haven't been on. But I did do some research on the families that you was talking about last time, a couple weeks ago. And man, the Collins family.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the Collins family is, man, these the people behind Goldman Sachs, Old Navy, Baby Gap, all these Sears, all these stores that you see, and it's interesting that Goldman Sachs, you remember like a year or two ago, they offered single black women money.
Yep, I do.
And these people are behind like the banking. They're literally behind the banking, and the DuPonts, they behind the wars. And when you think about it, it's like, but the way they did it is so strategic, and it really connect the dot when you talk about family, and you talk about how important family is, because they really know how important family is. That's one thing that really stood out. They know how to structure family. And another point that I want to bring up, and I can't be on long, but I said I need to at least come in and say something. Um, Another thing I've been seeing lately is a lot of children that's coming up missing. A lot of children coming up missing. I don't know what the source is, but any transaction, like a transitional period you have going to the house, coming from school, anything like that, coming from the store, sitting in the car when you coming from the store, don't do that. We have to keep a good eye on our children
Mhm.
because I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I don't know what's the source of it, who's behind it, but man, it's like person after person after person. And it's obviously targeting going on. So keep yourself protected and always look out in your area and see what's going on. Black people, melanated people, we need to go back to having them old people sitting on the porch,
Mm.
watching everything, But we don't do that no more because we so caught up. But I think public school is one of the biggest sources of this stuff. They have to be, these kids have to be coming up missing, coming from school and stuff. Going and coming from school. So yeah, that's what I had to say.
No, give thanks, brother. Yeah, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, those are important warnings, man. We're in an era of sacrifice. So children are gonna get sacrificed. That's a normal thing, giving up children to Molech. Whether it's by way of Planned Parenthood, whether it's by way of just inserting them into a very sick industrial complex, whether it's the educational or the school industrial complex, or it's the prison industrial complex. We live in a society and a social structure that's no stranger to mass murder. I mean, we were talking about, again, just the French, during the French Revolution. What was that, like 1780, 1792, somewhere around there, right? There were over 13,000 people who died by way of the guillotine alone. And the way they first did it, when they were killing people by the guillotine, they went out and looked for all of the smart people. They grabbed the scientists, they grabbed the engineers. They were just killing the smart people. 13,000, and then went to the children, then went to women, whole families, of people who were of certain bloodlines. This is during the French Revolution. So yeah, we live in a society where they ain't have no problem with, like, oh, we just take half the population out, no problem. Because the important thing to understand, like when we talk about the Illuminati and like these sacrifices and these children coming up missing, the Illuminati, that we'll use that term because I really believe that we are the Illuminati, because we don't know that we don't know sometimes that we are being the bad Illuminati. There's the good Illuminati, there's the bad Illuminati. And you're being tricked into being the bad Illuminati, because the ultimate mission of the Illuminati, their religion, is revolution. Their whole religion is based around revolution, right? And once you understand that, then it like everything they do will start to make sense. They're revolting against the creator. So you'll have something like Carnival or Mardi Gras. It's the only exhibition or Halloween, right? This is the exhibition of diversity. We have a big term that's been like a small term that's been like in around like a lot of corporate environments as of late, DEI, diversity, diversity and inclusion, equality and inclusion, right? And that's a big thing. We talk about that a lot, but and I sort of do a lot of work in that field, which is kind of funny. my expertise. And I've always been fascinated, with diversity and inclusion. I think it's important. Equity more so than equality, has always been an important thing to me. But the truth is, like, some of that is really against the creator to include everyone. See, that's the whole science, like you were seeing. And again, I'll talk about some of this tomorrow, but the whole science of what you were seeing when they did the last supper scene at the opening of the Paris Olympics, which is not a scene from the Bible. That's Leonardo da Vinci. But they did it with, dissexuals, in the scene, right? So what that's supposed to be, revolution in the sense of like the Illuminati sense, it requires a lot of confusion. So you're looking at this guy on with makeup and a beard and a dress, and you're like, is that like, okay, do you like girls? You like guys? You like both? Like what is this? So the times you get to have like that level of diversity is in like celebrations, Carnival, Mardi Gras, things like that. And that's done on purpose because it's an opportunity to give the power of diversity in the hands of certain people and let them keep that power for longer than what they should have. There's a scepter that gets passed around. And if you hold the scepter longer than you're supposed to, now everything goes topsy-turvy. You see, so that's done on purpose. Oh, we're gonna take these systems and turn them on their head. That's our revolt. So let's take the Last Supper. It's like we're in Paris. We're in a super Christian / Catholic place. We'll take this image of the Last Supper. We are where the Louvre is. And people need to understand how important the Louvre is. The Louvre has a structure where it's an inverted triangle, right? A lot of people don't know the way that structure is at the Louvre. The Louvre is a museum, in France. The way that structure is, it's an inverted triangle at the surface, and underneath the surface, it's a corrected triangle, and they meet at the small point. So, but where they meet at the small point is underground, because underground is where the initiations take place. Anytime you see people talking about the basement, or you got to go down, or you got to go under this, that, they're talking about initiation, because initiations are always done in the unseen realm. You see, so they take this idea of the pyramid, and the idea of the pyramid comes from the volcano. The first pyramids were the volcanoes, because you got to even look at the word pyramid. Pyro-mid. Pyro means fire. Mid, in the middle. Fire in the middle. Pyramid. That's a volcano. So there was a time where people used to worship the volcanoes, and they got confused, so they would start throwing bodies in there. Just start feeding it people. Maybe chill out. you know what I'm saying? And they started. Right. Yeah. Daughter, she been touched? No. Has she had her blood? Like you start getting that Game of Thrones thing. Has the girl had her blood? So it's like you get that kind of action happening. People get confused, and so now they're confused about the purpose of the pyramid as well. But ultimately, then you go to the Louvre, and it's like, well, we're going to invert it. We're going to turn the Most High's creations upside down. You see? So, yeah, we'll have the Last Supper, but it's all going to be Transformers. Or we have phrases like holy SHIT. Who came up with that? It does seem kind of like a little off. I'm gonna tell you another interesting one. I wanted to go through this series again, like Batman. Because Batman is really, let me tell you, man, a lot of times the Bible's good. The Bible's good. Some of these movies, though, you're like, you know what I mean? The Dark Knight, in particular, Christopher Nolan's Batmans, as well as Inceptions. These are Christian movies, like, or I should say, way movies. You know, these are they have a Hebraic swag because they're all about waking up. But in order to wake up to the reality of what is, you need a kick. But I was thinking about like Christopher Nolan's Batman or Dark Knight, which is a better way to put it. And I was like, yeah, okay, so like Gotham is the church. Gotham is in the dark. It's the church. But they use Christian Bale to play the Dark Knight. Christian Bale is Baal. So they put Baal and the Christians there. See, that's the thing. A lot of times when you look at these movies, you got to look at the actors' names. Why is Morgan Freeman always the Holy Spirit? You can't have a movie and have the Holy Spirit and it not be Morgan Freeman's voice. You cannot do. You're not allowed. It's like it's just known in Hollywood. He is God. You know, he has to be the voice of God. You know, Alfred is obviously Joseph. You know what I mean? Like, but you look at some of these movies and it's like, man, they telling you a lot if you know what to look for. It's right there in front of you. You got to understand that the symbolism that's right there in front of you. But even like I said, the actor's name, Christian Bale. So then let me go look at everything he's been in, because he's a combination of the quote unquote pagan and the Christian coming together. You see?
Man, I'm even thinking about Pocahontas.
Mm-hmm.
He voiced the character in Pocahontas too. And it's the same thing, the Christian and the pagan coming together.
Right. You be thinking like this stuff. Let me tell you something, man. Like, we're both artists. And we know that if you just give me enough to pay my bills, I will sit at home all day and do art.
Uh-huh.
We both would do that, right? Okay. What if I give you an unlimited budget and I will make the right exactly like excellent. And I will make the world your canvas. See, like the movie Inception, done by Christopher Nolan, the kick was music. I'm trying to remember the name of the composer. It's a female composer. She's like insane. And the music she did for that film was like, oh my God, it was so beautiful. The music in that film. I can't remember her name right now, but somebody came to her and said, I'm going to give you a humongous soundscape to use. It's going to be the minds of the human populace. You know, so sometimes we don't realize that behind all of this occultism and esoterics are artists. And these artists are pulled in and said, okay, you understand the psychology of sound, the psychology of color, the psychology of rhythm, the psychology of lighting, so forth and so on. This is what we're creating. This is the world that we're going to create and go all out with it. So they'll say things like, well, we need Samuel Jackson to be this. We need Christian Bale to be that. You know, we have our archetypes in these spaces, because some of them may actually be Nephilim. You know, we got some bloodline stuff happening with some of these people as well. Some of them have been knighted. You know, you get knighted by the royal family in England who are Nephilim. You know what I mean? Like
Anthony Hopkins, Sean Connery, just two names.
Right. Sean Connery was knighted. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like,
the guy who played Alfred was knighted too, right?
Oh, Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Yeah, I believe Michael Caine was. I remember him saying something like, so that's Sir Michael Caine. Sir Sean Connery or Sire Sean Connery. These are terms that are outlawed in the United States. You're not allowed to call yourself Sire or Esquire. But it's okay though. We celebrate. Mick Jagger was knighted. We celebrated for some reason, but it's supposed to be against the law, right? So like again, you have artists who are like, yo, like go crazy. Well, what's my budget? 300 million. What? You know, like, I was gonna go down to the store and get some art supplies, like some freaking some pipe cleaners and twist them together. Like, nah, this is
I was going to the Dollar Tree.
Right, exactly. I was gonna get some glitter and some pipe cleaners. Like, no, this is something different. You know what I'm saying? This is something that's gotta have. Think about, you know, Space Odyssey 2001. It's still amazing, the music and you know, like, yeah, you playing with my brain. You're using neuro-linguistic programming in the way that you're delivering certain words and things like that, you know? So yeah, sometimes we don't look at these things like for how much metacognition goes into what we're watching. We just think it's like, oh, it's just coincidence. No. You know, the people who are playing certain roles, like I think I had shared that before. I was an old segment. I don't remember what I named it, but I spoke about Samuel Jackson and Black Snake Moan. And I was like, yeah, don't forget the other film was Snakes on the Plane. You see? So one is the Kundalini raising up snakes on the plane, and he's got his big bald black head, you know, so that's representing the pineal, and it's ascending, and there's snakes on the plane. So that means the Kundalini's going up. Then you're watching Black Snake Moan, and he's back down on the ground, and they gave him hair in that one. And he's got this girl who can't control her Kundalini. So they use music to channel it and to, she's like a dragon he's taming. You know, but it's always with the snakes with you, Samuel. What's going on?
Something cold-blooded.
What's that?
Something cold-blooded. He was in Deep Blue Sea. He was in
Deep Blue Sea,
Jurassic Park, the first one.
Kong versus Godzilla. Because you know Godzilla is a serpent.
Yeah.
And that was so amazing because they were in the earth. They were in Shambhala. You know, so anytime you see Shambhala, you have to look for the term Rex Mundus. Rex Mundus. Anytime you see a term, a movie, whatever, where they're in inner earth, look for Rex Mundus. Rex Mundus means king of the earth. You know, REXMUNDIS. Rex Mundus. So, you know, like, this is one of the reasons, like, you know how like they always make fun of like native people who they stole their land from, and they always say they didn't have a concept of land, but they were so attached to the land.
You see that in the movie New World.
What's that?
You see that in the movie New World when Colin Farrell is breaking down as he's meeting the, you know, Paul Hutton and whatnot. He's like, they don't have a concept of this. They have like kids, you know,
right?
So innocent.
But what it was is that they understood more about origins. Like you go to Australia, some Aboriginal groups, not all, they recognize their home as being the Palladian star system. But then you had certain groups here in North America, they said they came from the earth. Not in the same way that we say Adam and Eve were made of the dust of the earth. They said that they were born from inside the earth and then came up to the surface. So when people, like, I remember that was a story amongst the Cherokee, that was a story amongst the Lenape, that was a story amongst the Muskogee. They said that they came from the earth, right? The Sioux also said the Sioux was a conglomerate, but they said they had that same. There was another group too, man, in Florida.
Seminole?
No, not the Seminoles. It's a name I don't hear much. But you always going to get your flyer stuff coming out of Florida, because remember, Florida is actually Africa. So you always gonna the vibe, the mojo down is always going to hit a little different, because when all the continents were connected, that's where Africa connected. You know, you could see it. So, but no, they recognize we come from the center of the earth. So our connection to the earth is, you don't understand it. So yes, we're connected to the land, but we don't have a sense of ownership over the land because we're from under the land. So yeah, come on in. Like, yeah, sure. You know, but you're from on top of the land. You're from the dust. See, there's a significance, and really the scripture, they said dust, but it was clay. Meaning that something was made first before you were made. But it was made from surface materials as opposed to being born out of the earth. So when we hear about Cain, he's like, you'll be a vagabond in the earth. Get back down in there with the natives. The natives, you know they're gonna kill you when they find out you ain't supposed to be killing nobody. They know that they're gonna kill you. You know, but yeah, man, it's like, so sometimes it's like there's very interesting misconceptions based on a misunderstanding of culture and how things sort of move around. But the symbolism is always there in your face. You know what to look for.
Yeah, when with artists too, like I saw I don't know if I just looked at the wrong picture, but I saw a picture of the creative director for the Olympics, and he had this look on his face like, I'd do it again. I'd do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I always think like that when I'm watching any form of media, because I know how I think when I'm making stuff.
Right.
I know how hard it is to stop myself from adding details. You know, it's like, oh, this could connect this point, then connect that point there, and then you connect that point. I know you do the same thing when it comes
to course.
Like, I'm playing, all right, I need to add a bass right there. The bass is going to swell in, and then you bring the strings in, and then it's all going to crash together. It's
like, just a bunch of junk. One big glob of junk. And you're like, what is it? Like, because it loses its purpose. It loses its rhyme and reason.
Yeah.
You know, but that's because like technology, see that's a spiritual thing. It's very spiritual, right? When I first started doing music, I had a 4-track. Well, no, scratch that. I had a tape deck, and we used to make what we call pause tapes. If you got 2 tape decks, some tape decks you can run a signal into them while the tape is playing, and then you could tape that onto another tape deck, and then you do it back and forth, and you just keep going. Now, it gets noisier and noise. Like you get more and more hiss each time you make a reproduction, but you ain't got no equipment. What you gonna do? Or you guys 2 tape that, you know? So I used to make songs like that, like just back where it take like days upon days, you know. But real creative, very interesting things, very, very interesting sounds and textures. And then I remember around the early to mid 90s, we started using what was called MIDI, more MIDI, where we could, let's just say, have more tracks. Then we had a software called Pro Tools come out, where it's like, you can get 64 tracks of audio, 128 tracks of audio. Now, all of the Motown songs that we all still love and bang to this day were primarily done on 3 tracks.
Oh man,
they were primarily done on 3 tracks, right? The Beatles operated from 3 tracks. Then we went up to like 12-track, 4-track machines, 8-track machines, 12-track machines, kind of topped out around 24 tracks for your golden era of music. No more than 24 tracks. The 90s, like especially the early 2000s, like when Beyonce came out, I used to work on some projects, have like literally 130 tracks of audio. Just all kind of weird stuff going on in the background. Well, here we're going to have a car like revving up. Here we're going to have like a horse. Like, why? Because we can. You know? And it was just a lot of junk. You know, a lot. That's why you don't have any classic songs that came out in that era. Because what happened is that prior to that, you had a spirituality in your sounds. If you knew like, hey, I got to make this song and I can only use 3 sounds. So I'm going to get the biggest, best sounds that are going to fill up the sound space and make the most important statement. A great example of that is Dove's Cry, Prince. That song is basically just a drum beat. But it just rocks. There's no bass line. There's no bass line. It's a drum beat. It's a little bit of a synth, and then it's the guitar. That's the whole song. It's really like just like 3 sounds for the most part. But he made each one so perfect that it was like you could just play the drum beat. As soon as I hear that, goom, ga, goom, ga, goom, ga, goom, like everybody know, uh-oh, Dove's Cry.
Right.
You know, you know what it is, because so now what happens, see, this is like Star Wars. It's the Empire versus the Empire wants what? It wants to bring order. But it's really, it's a sneaky kind of order. So what happens is that once you start to introduce all these digital options or just options, period, because your mind thinks different now, you now are making more order where there should be less order, where there should be more mistakes and more fluidity and more morphing of things. You know, you take that out now because now we got a grid. We got a computer that can keep us on a grid, keep you on time,
right.
You know, and you can put 500.
Edges.
What's that?
Got a bunch of hard edges.
Bunch of hard edges, right. And but what happens is it creates order now. And you think because you have more order, you have something better, but the computer just gave you order in place of spirit. And the reality is that order then leads to chaos. Because now it's like, well, I can add this and I can add that and I can add that. So the order is really an illusion. It's very similar to the Last Supper, which is also, that image actually came from the Feast of Dionysus. You got to know who Dionysus is. He's an important character because he's in everything, but you just don't know it's him that they're talking about. And Dionysus was the god of frenzy. So his worshipers would go into a frenzy, right? So you might see something like the Last Supper is you're really looking at the Feast of Dionysus and you're thinking like, oh, there's an order here. And no, it's an illusionary order to later bring on a frenzy and a chaos, which we call Carnival, Mardi Gras, right. So forth and so on, you know?
Yeah, even with the name, they call it in Trinidad, Bacchanal, from Bacchus.
Bacchanal, right. Yeah.
And with the Last Supper too, from what I remember, I think it was Da Vinci who painted it. He got a bunch of prisoners from the prison to pose for the disciples. So you think you're looking at something, but again, it's that frenzy aspect too. Probably a bunch of people who got locked up because they had no self-control.
Well, that's the thing. It's always to profane the divine, where everything is like, it's like a spoof. You know, most of your religions are spoofs. You know, it's like, did the Wayans brothers like write this Bible? Like it's just a bunch of spoofs. You know what I'm saying? So like that's the reality of a lot of times you see those images. And like, you know, El Karar said that was the blue guy with the grapes was Dionysus, right? In the opening thing. But you know who the blue guy also is the Smurfs. The Smurfs.
I can hear El Karar even though he knew it.
Look at the headgear of Dionysus and then go back and look at the Smurfs and their white hats. And then you tell me what you're looking at. I knew what that.
It's supposed to represent like sort of a mushroom, right?
Yeah. And they lived in mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That was Dionysus. That was a Dionysus cartoon. You know. So like, yeah, sometimes the symbols and stuff, it's right in front of your face, man, if you really know what you're looking at. Like I said, I'm gonna get into that tomorrow. Cause like I was just thinking about, I was like, yeah, man, a lot of people, like I'm looking at like when it came out and all like the Christians in the uproar. And I'm like, y'all missed the whole point. Y'all thought it was an attack on Christianity. Nobody care about no freaking Christianity like that. Y'all ain't moving nothing. See, there's always a cover. There's always an exoteric. Like, I'll give you a great example. Sammy Davis Jr. Who don't love Sammy Davis Jr., right? And he was a known Hebrew. He's a Hebrew convert. But a lot of people also don't know was that he was a devout Satanist. The Hebrew thing was a cover for the Satanism. Yeah, I know, El Karai. He's like, you got Sammy. They got Sammy. They got to him. Yeah, man. Sammy, I mean, yeah, he's talented. I mean, right, exactly. We get you a nice glass eye. We get you one that move around. You know, he had that glass eye, you know, which is an occult thing. That's why whenever you see, like, they got that one eye covered, the right eye covered in particular, that's an occult symbol. Or sometimes they'll take the hair and put it like that. That's all occult symbols, you know. But yeah, man, like the religions are a cover for what's really happening underneath. I mean, you had the Order of Hellfire. Benjamin Franklin was a member of the Order of Hellfire. Alexander Hamilton was a member of the Order of the Hellfire. And the Order of the Hellfire, what they believed was that Christianity and science had a meeting point. And they believed more in the divinity of how science functioned more than Christianity. But these are people who would talk about God, but that's why they started. That was one of them. They started really pressing that separation of church and state, because our conception of church is it ain't what you think it is. Then you have like more overt societies that are just as evil, but they play it off. Like I said, the Knights of Moloch is one, but you also, which is an offspring of the Knights Templar, but you also have the Alfalfa Society. Now they literally just do roast. Every president, they usually have whoever's the president at that time, they do a speech like every year for the Alfalfa Society. Obama did his in 2009. You know, the Bushes do theirs, but they make it seem like it's just like this innocent little, oh, it's cool, it's Alfalfa Society. But you got to understand alfalfa is a very interesting plant, because alfalfa will do anything to plant to get water. It's a plant that's known for that. It's a very aggressive plant when it comes to water. It will grow across anything, kill anything, whatever, to get to water. Right? And when you start to understand, like, man, it's so much, man. I'll probably get into a lot of this tomorrow, but like plants and soil, you'll always see representations of it because it's a part of the occult too. Just like, you know, back in the days when they had the original Olympics, they would give them a crown of olive leaves. You know, that was what you got. Like, because it was said that crown of olive leaves, it was from an olive tree that grew in Mount Olympus. This wasn't mythology. This is an olive tree that grows where the gods live. For real, for real. And we're going to give you a crown of these olive leaves, right? But like, you know, like I said, you got to kind of understand, you know, sometimes, just like I said, just some of the symbolism that's present, you know, in that, you know, yeah.
I would say also, like, when you was talking about Carnival and how it was the verse, it's like, because I like Brazil so much. It's like, you ever notice how during Carnival it's the most diverse? Like, they always, like, every samba school has an Orisha theme at times. Yep. You're going to see something dedicated to a shoe, or something, or some black person that nobody really really wouldn't be recognized. But all of a sudden during Carnival, that's where, you know, the diversity comes out.
And that's the whole key. Like, remember, the path is narrow. That's what the scriptures say. So what does the Illuminati want to do? Make the path diverse. Come on, everybody. It doesn't matter what your orientation is, what your race is, what your nationality. Come on, let's do this together. Let's all dance to the drum. You know? So it's a trick. So you're like, oh, it's Mardi Gras, it's Carnival, it's you know, Jukanu, like what we rocking out, you know, and not realizing that diversity was the scheme to get all of these energies together and blend them to the point that they don't really matter anymore. Like, I think Project Blue Beam is gonna be that. because that's the ultimate way to do it. I think they're going to project the image of Jesus and Muhammad in the sky, like kicking it, like we are one. I'm telling you, I think that's what Project Bluebeam is going to be. Everybody keeps saying that they're going to. What's that?
They both doing the jail pose.
Basically, like, yeah, we've been together the whole time. You know, like, I think that's what's going to be, because they've been saying for years, like, oh, they're going to use that to make it look like it's the rapture. And nah, they're going to use it to conjoin world religions. That's what I believe. You know, you're going to see symbols of all, and they're all going to be together. It's like a council of the gods. They're going to project that in the sky. And then you're going to say, well, heck, then, you know, I need to go deeper into my religion because it's right. Instead of I need to get this middleman out the way. You're not going to do that. You're going to go deeper in because it's okay, because they're all connected. And above all these religions is where the demons, the demiurges, they waiting for you. Like, yeah, come on in. Come on. We, you know, I told you we was right. You were all right. You know, but that's the diversity that I believe is going to be very present in that sense.
You know, well, you know, brother, I don't really think that's such a bad thing, you know, because I
Right.
thought God was love. And if God is love, then, you know, it doesn't really matter. If it's Jesus or Muhammad, don't matter. God,
whatever you want to call it. Whatever, as long as it's a higher power and you submit yourself to it and you ain't hurting nobody, you know, then what's the problem? Because at the end of the day, they all saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Think about it, brother.
Think about it, brother.
It's interesting though, because I think it's related to what you said about how they always have to tell us at least once.
Yes.
Because a lot of these secret societies, especially like in the cartoons in the 80s and 90s, they have like a reflection in cartoons. Like they actually have in X-Men, the Hellfire Club. And their whole thing was about bringing the Phoenix to Earth, the Phoenix Force that took over Jean Grey, the psychic girl.
You are absolutely right. I remember. Yep. Yeah. It was the Hellfire Society. I mean, heck, even in the cartoon Gargoyles, they had a whole like 3-part series on the Illuminati. You know,
they were like the mafia.
Right. I mean, it's right there, and a lot of it really is just again, I'll talk about it a little bit more, but it's Saturn. It's really the energy of Saturn. That's the one when they talk about the rings of Saturn. The rings of Saturn, you got the series, The Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. That's what they're talking about. The Lord of the Rings is talking about the rings of Saturn. You know, because it's said that the demiurge actually lives in Saturn. That's his home. You know, so we want to bring, because Saturn is transmitting a certain frequency to the Earth. You know, that's the planets, like we already, everybody knows, like, I don't care, like, come on, man, like, you know that the planets have an influence over your body. Like, let's just get over it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be a slave to that influence, but it is there. Like, come on, you born a certain month, you tend to act a certain way, a certain time of day. It's an influence over your body, but that's because each planet is a satellite. There's different archons that live in different planets, and at certain times they're stronger than others, and they're transmitting their signal. Hey, I'm over here. This is what we do. This is what we do. And then you're born at that time, and that you have that influence of that transmission over you. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't want that crap. Right. Like, nah, that's not what you want. Like, nah, you don't want an archon, you know, controlling you. Saturn was known as the all-seeing eye. That's where that concept of the all-seeing eye. A lot of people think came from the sun. It didn't. It came from Saturn, the all-seeing eye. You know, but nah, that ain't the business. That's not what you want. You know, that's part of the trap.
That's like being on with a commercial in your head. And the one commercial for this one product just keeps playing over and over. You don't have to buy it, but it's gonna play.
Right, it's gonna play different time, and like you got to know. See, you got to be so in tune with nature. You got to know when the signal's off. Just like you might see an animal, if you see a raccoon out during the daytime, rabies. You already know. Like you ain't gonna be sitting there like, hey kitty, 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 hey kitty, kitty, kitty.
Right.
No, that's a raccoon that's got rabies. It's not supposed to be out right now. But do we have the same kind of understanding of the planets? Like, do you know when Saturn's not transmitting its proper frequency? Or when the moon is transmitting something destructive? It's like, yo, like, you don't think these bases get hijacked? You know what I'm saying? Like they get hijacked like anywhere else. You look at the not the spook who sat by the door. Remember they ran up in the radio station?
Yeah.
It was like, hey, you baby, what did he say? Baby Bean and you too, sweet something. I don't remember everything. It's so long ago. But they used to have what they call pirate radio stations back in the days. You don't think there's pirate planets? You know what I'm saying? So there's a transmission that gets sit down, but are you in tune enough to know, like, I don't feel that ain't the sun. That don't feel right. And I know, like, I've experienced this, and I know you definitely have, Menelec in the Caribbean because of the way the skies are. Sometimes you can look at certain clouds like, what the heck is that? Yeah,
Ain't no cloud.
What the heck is that? Like the shape is like. Like that ain't your joint's supposed to be like this, and your joint like, like that's not a cloud. Like who are you fooling?
Wearing gators?
Exactly. Or you'd be like, the shape is a little too sharp. Like the face, they'd be like, that is clearly a face. Y'all didn't even try to hide it. You know what I mean? Like that cloud just woke up. You know what I mean? Like, so you could even tell when sometimes the cloud is off. You're like, that ain't I'm not, let me go back inside. I shouldn't be outside right now. So if a cloud could be off, or there could be something funny in the air, like, nah, I'll see y'all later, man. Where you going? I'm gonna go back inside.
Yeah,
so
it's weird too, being over here and like traveling back and forth between here and the States, because there's a lot less noise.
Yeah,
and the
less
States,
electricity.
So many things to look at, and you looking around by default because you don't want no one to like pickpocket you or something like that. But you ain't got no loud noise, you ain't hear no ambulance all day. Like you have a place where you could go to where it's just nature.
Right.
It's kind of different because you could look around and be like, that don't look right. Like sometimes at night, the clouds are a little too reflective. The moonlight is bouncing on. Like that cloud is too silver. I don't like it.
You actually seeing that firmament. You know what I mean? Because remember, the firmament is a hard surface. It's if you break down the word in the Hebrew, it breaks down to a hard metallic, something that has been hammered.
Yeah, the rakia.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would look at clouds sometimes like, I don't think you that soft. You don't look that soft. You look like if I ran a plane through you, like we would die. Like that cloud looks sharp.
It looks sharp.
It don't look soft. It looked like it would tear this plane to shreds. Go around that joint. But that would make sense based on our understanding of what the firmament is, So yeah, man. Somebody want to ask about the glass eye. Oh, they just want to keep showing it.
I think so.
To get choked out.
Brother Usman.
Greetings, Chief.
Peace, brother. Shalom.
Greetings,
man.
El Farrar, Master Menelec.
Peace, bro.
Yeah, bro. What you got for us, brother? You good?
I'm good. I'm just enjoying the build. Chief spoke earlier about religion being first of all a mask, and then later on he spoke about it being a spoof. And Master Menelec and myself, we were speaking earlier, and the subject came up about a Christian family that I had, and I kind of mentioned to him that family, there was really no doctrine involved in that. It was more of a religion rather than a doctrine or a culture or even a teaching. and that's why it eventually fell apart. So, that's just one of the breadcrumbs that I get when I listen to these builds. I always harken back to something that they applied to in the past to give me an answer as to why certain things happen. Because just as you said, a lot of religion, I don't know about now. Well, from what I hear now, but I'm not involved directly in any type of religion. But even back then, it was very performative, and there was really not a lot of substance to it at all. So,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, I can remember my last day in a formal church where the pastor said that he was actually, he actually said this. He said that he was trying to collect enough money to get a Bugatti, and this was a church in Rialto, California. I remember specifically, and I looked and I looked at my wife at the time, and I'm like, did he say what I think he just said? And not that wasn't bad enough, but right after, immediately he said, "Yeah, I said a Bugatti. Now, if you don't like what I'm talking about, then you don't appreciate wealth, and there's the door. You can get on out." And I'm like, wow. And I remember this specifically, but this was my last day in church, and I'm like, wait a minute. The church is where, if nowhere else on the planet, you're supposed to feel at home or welcome. If nowhere else on the planet, you're supposed to feel that way. You're supposed to feel that way in church. And with that, that was my last go at it. But I can directly relate to what you're saying when you talk about it being a spoof and being a mask, because that's in my experience. Even beyond that, that's all it was.
Yeah, brother. I mean, that's deep, man, because that performance piece that you speak about is necessary, but it's also very necessary for the pastor to be sexy. So he has to have that Bugatti. He has to, because if you that actually, what I was going to touch on that a little bit when I spoke about the Alfalfa Society. The thing about it, like you remember some years back, man, when Janet Jackson did the Super Bowl with Justin Timberlake, and he ripped her top off and her breast was there, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, I knew it was fake when I saw it, because I'm like, well, not fake, but like, pre-planned, because she had a pasty over her nipple. So it was like, you knew you were going to expose your breast today.
Right.
But the thing about it is that performance, those halftime performances are very important, because halftime performances have to be sexy. Because what happens is that once the erotic energy comes forth, there's certain entities that they feed off of erotic energy, right? But what happens is two things that happen during like a match, whether it be a football match or even in church. And a lot of times, student terminology. There's this erotic energy that comes forth, and then after the erotic energy, blood is spilled on soil. That's the most important thing. Scientifically, we know that blood, the phosphorus that's inside of blood, causes plants to grow like crazy. Okay, so now it's a ritual. So you get the crowd. I remember like that girl, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift used to do that a lot. It would be like these erotic performances, but Taylor Swift was a child of Usher. So Usher comes on, he's got his shirt up, and you've seen it showing a six-pack and all of that. All the women are aroused and turned on and everything like that. So these things have to happen, because then now the players come onto the field, they spill blood. The blood now, with all of the sexual energy, and then with the blood energy, the plasma and the phosphorus from the blood, it now goes into the soil. That's an actual ritual. That's a demonic ritual. So in the church, you have a similar thing. I was a church musician. I know. There was, man, I don't even want to talk about certain people, but I remember not the first time, but one of the first times I saw the laying on of hands. And I was always very particular about that. Like, don't touch me. Like, I don't want, because I knew what it was. Because as a musician, you already know what to play. When you do an altar call and then people are coming up and you grab that olive oil and they about to lay hands on you, it's very, very erotic. That's why during that time of the service, there's no upbeat music that's played. You're playing slow, sensual music. I'm telling you, I was the cat doing it. And there was when this first kind of hit me, man, it's sad because I saw a video of the sister the other day. She transitioned recently. She's a bishop who was around most, very, very well known. I'm not gonna say her name, but I even kind of stutter to say it because once I say it, people they're gonna know. But she had this red light. Well, she had a blue light, and then she used to use a red light that she used to turn on during altar call. So the whole church is lit up. It's bright church like any other church you go. It's bright, right? Then when altar call would come, she would hit the switch. And I remember one time we were there, we were visiting, but I was playing the bass. And they hit that light. And I heard about this light before, but I always thought it was like a joke. I didn't know it was real. Now, mind you, I come from playing in nightclubs. So I know the vibe.
What that real
You know what I'm saying? I'm playing in nightclubs one night. One night we playing Keith Sweat. And then the next night I'm like, I know what this is. But you got olive oil and you touching people and you rocking them back and forth. And you trying to get them, they got their hands up and I would look at like some of the brothers and sisters and I could see like, no, this is an orgasmic sort of experience. And then they would fall out. Now you're not falling out because the power of God is on you or the God you talking about. Because if you didn't have the rhythm of the music and the lights and the back and forth and the heat in the room, you wouldn't fall out. You'd just be like, somebody's doing this on my head. And like, that's that. But all of those things precipitate a spirit and an energy, and it's an erotic energy that your nervous system overloads, you fall out in the spirit. I caught this early on and I was like, man, I'm not feeling this, man. And nobody better not come touch me. I remember saying that, like, I know what this is, man. I used to practice Tantra when I was young. Like, I know a Tantra session when I see one. Just because you got olive oil, I know what you're doing and you know what you're doing. As the person who's laying on the hand, you know what you're doing. And I'm not saying that all preachers and pastors, I don't want to condemn everyone, but I've seen enough of them do that. So that is a ritual. Because now once you fall out on the ground, what am I going to start talking about? Blood. That's the ritual. Eroticism, then blood. You will never see a halftime show of the Super Bowl. You're not going to see a heavy metal rock band for the halftime show. You're not going to see it. You're going to see Megan Thee Stallion. You're going to see Cardi B. Cardi B's sole purpose is to turn you on. Sexy Red is there to turn you on. That's their purpose, for you to get turned on and then for there to be violence, for there to be some kind of bloodshed. So you have the same sort of motif in some of those quote unquote church environment. So the pastor's going to say, yeah, I need a Bugatti. I got to stay sexy. I got to have these women turned on and falling over me and wanting to be my lover before I start talking about blood. It's got to be when they come up for altar call and I touch them and they smell my cologne and the strength in my hand and my nice suit and my diamond ring. They got like, oh, it's got to be like an R. Kelly concert. They just passing out because of the sexual energy, but it's not it's not the ruach, because scripturally you ain't got you don't have any stories of people being touched and falling out, and that's not even in the scriptures.
Correct. Correct.
You see, so that it's eroticism, brother. That's all it is. It's dead. Yeah, he need that Bugatti. He need it. Yeah.
So they've managed to sneak deep carnality in what's supposed to be a spiritual venture.
Yeah, but it never started off as a spiritual venture. It never. Let me tell you something, man. You say you want to be a pastor, right? So you tell me in 2025 I want to have my own church. I say, okay, cool. Well, there's 52 Sundays in the year. You got to start coming up with material for 52 sermons at minimum. 52 sermons at minimum, right?
Correct.
So you're going to probably start studying your Bible a little bit more, right?
Right.
How quick are you going to figure out that half the stuff you're saying you're getting ready to do is not even in the book?
Mm.
Within your first 2 strongs of studying, you're going to figure out like they weren't called Christians. Ain't no J's in this language. Let us make. There was multiple. You're going to start certain things. You're going to like, whoa, wait, okay, wait. This is who was Cain afraid of? Well, let me find out because one of my new church people who are under me, my parishioners, they may ask me that question. I better go find out for myself. They may ask me this question. They may ask me questions about fornication. Well, Pastor, what is fornication? Oh, having sex before marriage. But isn't sex the marriage? How could you technically have sex before a marriage? Yeah, let me go look up fornication. Oh, fornication is indecent sex. When I have indecent sex with someone or I have sex with someone and don't bring them into my house, that's fornication. Oh, well, that ain't what I was taught. So within 14 days, you're going to figure out, man, most of the stuff, they say, y'all ain't got it right. You see? So when you say like, oh, they turned it into, they knew when they got started. They knew what they would do. They knew like, I don't know nothing. And as long as I stay dumb, I'm going to be successful. If I just stay dumb, if I feed people what they want, they want that eroticism and they want affirmation. They want me to turn them on in the church and then tell them that this is your season. God hears you and your haters are going to fall by the wayside because this is your season to come out and come forth. While the slow music is playing, you getting rocked. You're getting rocked to sleep while you're being affirmed. And it's a highly sexually charged environment. You see what I'm saying? So they knew when they signed the lease for the church building, they didn't know nothing. And they was going to be making up half the stuff they were saying, or they came across the truth and was like, and just decided to, well, I ain't going to worry about that because ain't nobody asking me about it.
And I've heard that too. I've heard pastors say that they know a different version of what they're teaching, but the people are not ready to hear it yet. That's what's said. That's the excuse.
Now think about this, brother. We've been listening to a lot of this junk for 400 years. When will we be ready for the truth? You know what I'm saying? And another 400? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, when we living on Mars, then we're gonna tell you. We've been listening to your same lies for 400 years. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still not ready for the truth. No, you barely know the truth because it doesn't really speak to you. And you were put here to be an agent of religion, religare, to bind back. You were put here to keep me from expanding into what I'm supposed to be. You were put here to keep me thinking that a human and an angel are not the same freaking thing. So this whole life I'm going around, walking around thinking I'm a human, but I learned that the angels, the Malachim, are the messengers. Well, I got a message. It's like going to court. You go up to speak, what they say, well, don't speak, let your lawyer speak for you. But I have something I want to say. You want to say it to your lawyer. I didn't even hire this chump. You know what I'm saying? This fool just showed up. And then I said, I want to represent myself. You can't represent yourself. You can't represent yourself. You can't stand for yourself. I have to stand for you because you're a minor. You're a defendant. What am I defending? I don't think I'm guilty of anything. I'm not defending anything I'm not guilty of. I'm an alleged defendant. You're alleging it. I don't agree with it. Talk to your lawyer. Then we start the process over again. I didn't hire the lawyer. You know, we just gonna keep going in circles. See, that's the lawyer is your pastor.
Right.
That's who that is. You got something you want to say directly to the Creator. The pastor says, well, come talk to me about it. Why? The scriptures say that I can go boldly before the throne of grace. That's what Yahweh said. I can go boldly before the throne of grace. He ain't say nothing about you. You see, but your job is to keep me on light code lockdown. It's like the movie They. Your job is to make sure I never put those glasses on where I can actually see what the heck is going on.
Right.
So you keep me, you know, once I get into the church and I start learning and I start, you know, I don't need to study the Bible. You know, you need to get in the choir. Why don't you join the choir? Come on, Doc. You look like you can sing a little bit. Join the choir. All right, I'll join the choir. So now I got less free time. I got to be out here every Saturday, every Wednesday, practicing with y'all. Hey, you coming out to Bible study this Wednesday, right? Oh, that's another day. Okay, all right. So now you got me Sunday, you got me Saturday, and you got me Wednesday. Okay. Well, you know, Doc, we are looking for some good brothers like you to be on a deacon board. Now I'm out here shoveling snow and raking leaves on my day off because I'm a deacon, which scripturally is supposed to be the same exact thing as a pastor. Not a junior pastor, but the deacons, those are all the cats who just came home from jail and you want to give them something to do, you know, well, you be a deacon, right? So now I'm a deacon. So now I'm up in this spot the whole time. I don't have time to think. But then if you start worrying about that, I'm going to get a little spark of thought. What do you say? Hey, Doc, about time for you to get married, don't you think? About time for you to have a family, Doc. You see, now you're going to bring some programmed female in my. You thought about Sister Johnson? Huh? She's a good sister, good program sister. Pastor
Right.
probably been screwing her for the past 3 years, most likely. You see, you're gonna bring me your mistress to take the suspicion off of you. Now I got this programmed woman. I'm in this building 4 days a week. I'm so invested in this now that my light code transmissions are completely locked down, and we don't never have church in the woods. We always in this building, even though Yahweh Shai said go to the uttermost parts of the earth, not building the building. You see, so it's it's dirty macking. That's what it is. It's dirty macking.
Right. Yeah.
You see, it ain't even good pimpery, because you're not even, if you pimper me, give me some game. So when this situation is over, I can start my own church. You ain't even giving me good game. You dirty macking on me. You keeping me locked down and keeping my world very small. You see, and keeping me in this very claustrophobic sort of mental state. You see. So now I'm used to small spaces. So when someone, I think Master Menelik spoke about this earlier. So if somebody comes along and says, hey man, you know you have the potential to move through the world as God. My mind is so small. I'm so used to this claustrophobic space. Like, I don't want to hear none of that. It's too big. I'm not used to being in open fields and open spaces where I can make decisions and I have direct connection to the heavens. I don't want that. Don't tell me that you scare me now. You see?
You're like, Cypher, put me back in the Matrix.
Put me back, man. I know it ain't real, but I don't care. Make me somebody important. Isn't that happen when you go to the church? Within a year, you somebody important. Don't be able to sing a little bit or be able to play an instrument. You know, you could be the biggest loser outside of those walls, man. Can't keep no job, sleeping on sofa to sofa. But I promise you, you're going to have something nice on come Sunday. You're always going to have a nice suit on. Always gonna have a haircut. You know, you're gonna look good because that's a part of the erotic ritual.
You know what's wild is I never heard of any type of expansion of just you as a being or your spirit or you becoming more godlike until I got outside the church. So that speaks to
Crazy,
what you're
right?
saying. Yeah,
Ain't that crazy?
that's wild.
Especially when their main character tells you to be that way. The main character said, "Let your mind be, be renewed by the renewing of your mind. Become more like me. Be more like Christ." The main character said, "You need to be thinking like me." How? By renewing your mind. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Like, it's okay. I'll be like you. They don't focus on that one. They focus on you are filthy rags. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound saved a wretch like me. A wretch. What did I do?
That was about a dang gone slave captain.
That right. You got me. Now I do acknowledge that original sin is a real thing. We do come into the world as disobedient beings. That's the whole reason why you came into the world, because you was disobedient. You got to come here to prove your disobedience. You got to prove you was right. You know, you had there was a precognition before this life, and at one point you said, "I think I could do that better, God." All right, cool. Well, there's the escalator. Go on and let's see what you got. You got to work your way back up, though. Because you got to do. If you tell me you're going to do what I never did, it's like me saying that to my parent. They try to put me up on some game. I say, "Oh man, come on, man, that was y'all. Things are different now. That's how it was when you was a kid. It's different out here now." And they say, "Oh, it's different, really." So my advice: pride. Remember, pride is when the Most High has nothing else to tell you. Oh, okay, so my words don't mean anything anymore. All right, well, go ahead. You go on and you prove what you say. And sometimes it don't work. So now you on this planet like, now I got to learn submission as a human.
Mm.
It was easier when I was there. Now I got to do this as a human because I was wrong. I came down with a messed up mission. See, in the Yoruba system, that's when we talk about Obatala forms the head, but some heads are malformed. Or sometimes people pick a ori and the ori didn't finish yet in the oven. So you pick a bad ori, you pick a bad destiny. You come down with a destiny. Well, what is it that you want to come down and prove? I wanted to come down and prove that all the nations of the people of the nations are loved by the Most High. Oh, that's a bad one. You might want to go back. You want to take that one back. That one. I feel it in my heart. That ain't gonna work out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a bad one. So you picked a bad destiny. And now once you figure out your destiny sucks, now you gotta like, okay, well then for my time here, I just gotta practice submission till I get back. I can't come here and be the wild renegade because I picked a bad course.
Something like I don't know what's with me of these Matrix references. I don't know. I think it's Zach rubbing off on me. But it's like when Morpheus and Neo is like, "I know Kung Fu." And Morpheus is like, "All right, show me."
Right. Prove it.
The next thing you know, he's breathing air inside a simulation with no air. He's
right.
breathing hard, but in a simulation with no air. Like, you think that's air you breathing?
That was a deep line in that movie. Oh my! That's why I tell y'all, man. Morpheus was the one. He was the one, boy. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was a deep line. Those are just electrical stimulus sent to your brain. Like we are. That's how you know you're still in the Matrix, because if you get up from your chair right now and you stub the edge of the wall or something like that, what you gonna say? "Oh, I hit my toe. Ooh, my toe is hurting." But your toe doesn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Your toe sent the impulse to your brain. And your brain is saying, down there is supposed to be hurt. But your toe is just like, I'm just letting you know what happened. Like, but I don't hurt. I don't feel pain. I'm going to send an electrical impulse that you are going to interpret as pain. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like that movie. So that's how you realize, like, even in our everyday, we still function with a matrix mentality. You know, because of where we think our experience is actually generating from.
Right.
Yeah.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, Maki.
Yeah. When you were talking about Lucifer, or that Luciferian type of story where you're coming down and after saying like, I'll be better than you, like I'm gonna go beyond where you've been, making me think of like the idea of the Most High, and like this is the highest that one could perceive. So in the Hebrew that would be El Elyon. And in the Anu it says that, you know, we're a Safa of the Most High Yah, and you said Yah is a title,
right?
I thought Yah was like Yahoo, or Yahoo was the name, like that was just the name of one entity.
Yahoo is the title.
Yahoo is the title.
Yod He Vav He. People say, "Oh, that's the sacred name of God that we cannot usher." So we say Hashem instead. Hashem means the name. So you don't say Yod He Vav He, or would some translate it into Jehovah or Yehovah or Yahuwah. But Yahuwah is a group. There are Yahuwahs. You see, so it's like it's tricky sometimes because there are all these replacements that you're told a name. Like when you read the New Testament, you have Theos is the word that's translated into the Greek for God. In the Old Testament, you have Elohim, right? So, but they're not necessarily the same thing. But sometimes you have Elohim, and then you have sometimes Adonai. You know, sometimes you have Jehovah. But none of those are actual names. They're all titles. Because there are groups, you know, depending on the system that you're working in, like the Gnostics speak about Yahuwah or Jehovah, the evil creator deity. He was evil. And the liberator was who we would know as Enki, or the serpent, the wise one. He's a symbol of wisdom, and he represents liberation. Whereas the creator deity represented trying to lock us down into slavery. But again, unless you hear me say Enki or Enlil or Ea, you know, you're not hearing a name.
Right.
You know, it's similar. Again, I think I taught this before about Orisha. People will say like Obatala, or Obatala is not really the same thing, but they'll say like Oya. Oya is not a name. Oya is a designation. The path, they'll say, well, there's different paths to Oya, but they say the same thing about Jehovah. Oh, there's different attributes. Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Shalom. No, Shalom, Nisi, Rapha, those are different deities who are Jehovites. They are a family of deities. Then you have Elohim, which is a family of deities. Just like you have different, like you have the Nephilim, you have the Rephilim, you have the Anakim, you have the Gibberim. But if you looked at it in scripture, it will say either giants or fallen one.
It doesn't tell you anything, like it doesn't tell you what it is.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, because then when you start studying the giant could be a giant, like physically, but a giant can also be just a powerful person on the planet. That's confusing. You know, and it's very subjective. If I am of the Twa tribe and I'm 4'3", everybody's a giant to me. You know what I'm saying? You put me next to a 7-foot Watusi or 8-foot Watusi. Well, that would be Nephilim to me. You know what I'm saying? So the language gets very tricky on purpose. And when you get to the Greek Testament, it gets even trickier because everything is theos. But you have to understand, well, why they use the term theos? Because theos is society. So in some of this language in the book, people were giving big ups to their own societies and their own clans and cults. You see? So depending on, that's why it's important to understand, like, there are different interpretations and different translations of the book. And as you go across cultures, they're represented differently. Like I said, when I said the Jews, French Jews don't act like American Jews. American Jews don't act like Spanish Jews. And I'm saying Jews, I'm not talking about Israelites. Their perception, even across Islam, you have there's a sect that nobody ever talks about called the Druze. They're an Islamic sect called the Druze. It's D-R-U-Z, I think it's Z-E-S, Druze. And there's only like 20,000 of them on the planet. And they had and this was a commentary. This is actually where they got it from Doom, the movie Doom. They had a caliph who basically at one point walked off into the desert by himself. And they believe that he is actually the Messiah. And that when he comes back from the desert, like he was like a mystical man, that the Messiah would have returned. That was the same thing in the movie Doom. You know, Paul Atreides, he walks off into the desert and he was the Mahdi or the Messiah, you know. So that's another sect. And they have a different perception than how another sort of sect of Islam might have, based on just the fact that, like, well, Muhammad is not our Messiah. Our Messiah is wandering the desert somewhere and it's going to come back one day from the desert. To me, that's like, okay, that's just as believable as like somebody died and resurrected 3 days later and went into outer space and is going to come flying out of outer space. I'll take the desert one. That's just, you know, I can work with that one. It's just believable, you know.
I see that theme in a lot of movies. They had that in Empire 300, where Xerxes, he went out into the desert and he went into some sort of pool, like an oasis, and he came back as the god. He came back as the god. And even in the new Dracula movie, or a newer one, where he spanned the desert, and then he went into a cave where there was this old hermit who bestowed upon him the power to be Dracula before he was Vlad the Impaler, and then he came back and liberated his people. So I see that theme a lot.
Anytime you get a reference to Dracula, anytime, you always want to pay attention to the Drago constellation. That's a star constellation. That's where and really it relates to Kansu, but that's a different thing. But that's where that whole concept of science of Dracula came from. It came from the Drago, or the dragon constellation. Because, and again, you got to remember, like, a dragon is a reptile, unclean reptile. A bat is a flying reptile. It's a rodent. It's a flying reptile. You know, it's the same sort of kind of unclean animal sort of concept, but it's dealing with the Drago constellation, which is a very important constellation to understand and to study, because a lot of world events are linked to that constellation movement, you know, or our movement around the constellation.
When you were speaking earlier about you know, the Yah being the title, or Elohim being the title, it brought to mind what you had said when we were watching misconception about there being like a ecosystem of the spirit world.
Right.
And like when you look at other origin stories, they kind of lay it out who did what. But when it comes to the Bible, it's always like, well, I'm just gonna give you a title. It's almost like if we talk about these families, it's almost like, well, the Rothschild did this and Rothschild did that. It's like, which Rothschild? You go with Nathan, you go with Maya, which Rothschild did what? You know, because that's important.
Right.
You know, who is responsible for what? And if you say that Elohim did this, so that's one group over there who made this. And then Yahuwah stepped in, and there's another group over here. So I mean, this is multiple families doing multiple different things. But
You know what's?
I'm sorry.
No,
It's hard to like again expand your mind from what you've been given. This one thing doing everything, and you will never know what it looks like or what its name is. But trust me, we know for certain. We have confirmed. Shadow of a doubt. It's just one.
Right.
So don't look.
There's one invisible sky god who used to come and speak to people, but for some reason just doesn't anymore. Because he sent his one and only begotten son. But even when he sent his one and only begotten son, he was still sending people. He was still coming down and communicating with people. But don't worry about that. It's the lack of itemization, if you will. The lack of itemization sort of says like, you have this one archetype who's doing everything, and that creates confusion and a blur. It's really anarchy that's being created, because it's like, okay, you told him to take his son to the mountain and sacrifice him. Then you said, no, I'm not going to sacrifice you. Then you said you was going to wipe out all the humans. Then you said, oh, but I'm going to save you. Just one person. Right. Yeah, it almost feels like you schizophrenic. Like, you know everything, but you regret making me. You know everything, but then you turn around and say, who told you that if you ate of the apple, the fruit you wasn't going to, who told you that? Don't you know who told me that? You start to realize, like, it's just like any parent, you know who you can dip and dive with. You know what I mean? Because I said this recently about the garden to somebody, like, how you going to hide in a spot that I built? Are you stupid? I built this. I built this garden, and you going to hide in it? Like, I don't know it back and forth somehow, unless I wasn't the one that built it. Unless I'm not the one who does know stuff. So you actually could hide in the bushes from me. I actually have to ask you what happened.
And where are you?
Right, where are you? Oh, you hide. Oh, so you knew you could hide from me. So it's like, again, you go back to the Akkadian, you go back to the Babylonian, the Mesopotamian, and you get, or you go across so many different script structures. You have in Buddhism, you have this the archetype Koan, Koan. They were the priests. Well, you have the Kohanes in the Hebrew, who are the priest line. You start to realize, and then we won't even get into the dragon stuff, but you start to go across and you realize, man, all of these people have a flood story. Why can't I, if I'm a Christian, why can't I like look into that? Or if I'm looking at, again, Sumerian culture, Babylonian culture, Mesopotamian culture, they all have cuneiform. They use the same cuneiform text. What in the stories mirror the story in this book that you gave me in English. Why can't I look at that? Like, Why would I? Why? See, this is what I'm saying. This frequency is being transmitted into your brain. You're always being programmed. Always. Because tell me where the book came from. Why do I have to believe this book over another book? Well, because this book, it got miracles. It'll change your life. So will the encyclopedia. You know what I'm saying? Like, so will a dictionary. Malcolm X went to jail and learned how to read the dictionary and came out and was debating cats in Harvard.
Right.
That changed my life too. I learned how to speak more intelligently. If I learn the words that I'm saying, that will change my life too. Why this book? Why the formation of this book? Who put these actual books and testimonies in this? Can I trust that person? Now I'm finding that there was an older book. There was an older language, but you telling me don't be bothered with that. Just focus on this. But the only reason I accept that is because of the light code transmissions. Again, it goes back to the movie They Live. You put this in front of me, and even though I'm like, huh? Remember when they would block the signal, people would get headaches? You know, the little girl's like, Daddy, my head hurts. You know, because like, yeah, now you're thinking.
Right. Like in the Matrix, it's like, why do my eyes hurt? Because you never
used them. You know, well, I don't like this feeling. Put me back to, you know, I was better before. So now I don't want to, I got to learn cuneiform. Man, I can't even write script anymore, man. I've been just typing on my phone like this. I forgot how to write an F in script. I got to learn cuneiform, you know, and then Aramaic and Akkadian and what? Can I just learn about Egypt? You know, then we get into that. We get lost into that and not realizing, yeah, you can learn about Egypt, but you got to learn the translations too of how does that relate to the Sumerian? How does that relate to the Aboriginal? You know, you got to learn about the area of Punt. These are important areas. You know, so it takes a level of scholarship towards the esoteric, exoteric, symbology, documentation, numerology, which is probably the most important out of all of this stuff, you know. But why do you just accept what you were given? You accept what you were given by people who didn't love you and people who can't even explain. Go to your pastor and say, Holy Bible, what does that mean? Well, to be holy means to be sanctified. Okay, what does that mean? And why should I be sanctified? How am I going to be sanctified and go out into the world at the same time? Which one should it be? Can you break it down to me? You know, like you break some stuff. When you read the first part of Matthew, we in the New Testament, quote unquote now, right? It says this is the testament of Christ, who was the son of David, who was the son of Abraham. You start off the new book saying that this is a testament of the son of David, but we don't talk about David other than the fact that he was, you know, a womanizer, a philanderer. And then we go to Abraham. We don't know much about Abraham. He lied and said that his wife was his sister. You know, that's all we know. But you're telling me in the very first part of the new one, and of course I want the new. Who wants an old car when I can get a new car? You're gonna tell me in the very first, so give me the new one, right? Of the new one, that this is a testimony of the old one. But then tell me I don't have to worry about the old one because we're under a new law. That's not what the first couple of words say right there in the very beginning. You lying. You lying. That tells me right there in the very beginning, the cat I need to be trying to understand is Abraham. That's the cat I need to understand. And Abraham, he came from that old time religion. That old time. They say that old time religion is good enough for me.
Old time religion, that's good enough. Okay.
That's for me. You know what I'm saying? He came from the old time religion. Why? Because he was coming out of those Sumerian texts. Abraham knew, like, man, there's a bunch of gods out here. You can pick and choose if you want. You know, they were carrying these other deities with them. Remember when they said that the women mourned for Tammuz? You know, these were Israelite women mourning for another deity. When they came out of Mitzrayim and they made Molech, I always tell you it was Het Harut, but it could have been Molech too. They made the golden calf. That's a little baby boy. You know, Abraham came out of that. Yes, an old time religion. You know, that's that ancient Hebrew. Yeah. So I better understand that the ancient ways, like the scriptures say, follow the ancient paths. But we in this church, and you don't never talk to me about none of this. Like, we don't talk about any of the old stuff.
Well, brother, you know, like I was saying, there's only one. You know, he loves everybody.
Right. This ain't about hate, brother. I ain't saying about no hate.
All that hate.
Right. You know,
it's a problem with our brothers. It's a problem with our black people. We always talk about hate.
Right. We stay stuck in the past, brother. It's about going forward into the future. But we had a black president. We about to have the first black female president, brother. Come on, we in the future. You know. Okay, I got you. I'll tell you something, man. You know, for everybody who gets confused on these Bible talks, like I told you, watch The Dark Knight. Watch anything by Christopher Nolan. I'm gonna give you another one. We're gonna close out with this. The Squid Game. That was some. Oh my goodness. I've been meaning for a while since it came out a couple years ago. I've been meaning to do a breakdown on that series. But it would be a huge breakdown, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But you want to understand something about spirituality, where this thing is going, occultism, rituals. Watch that show, The Squid. And you know what? It was like a big in fact, they're doing a part 2.
They are.
Or
they did a real life game reality show on it.
Oh, they did. See, anytime you see a reality show, you got to understand that's also a ritual. All of that is ritual, right? Like, let's take the Kardashians. Who don't know the Kardashians? Like, if I say Kardashian, you all know who I'm talking about, right? Everybody know the Kardashians. I know who the Kardashians are, right? That's on purpose. I'm gonna tell you something that's a ritual that, you know, all of like these games and especially when you have these reality TV stars, they are smack dab in the middle of the rituals, because what they're giving is they're giving a simulated reality to show you how to behave. Look at the Kardashians girl. Look at the girl Kim, right? Kim was already attractive. The whole family is attractive. And she went and got a bunch of plastic surgery. Now just think about this for a second. This is similar to Nicki Minaj. Very pretty girl. She might not have had all of them, but she could have sailed just off of how pretty her face was. But we'll take it to Kim Kardashian. Why'd she get all that plastic surgery? She was already very attractive, because she was creating a face for you to copy. Then they put her in the front of you. Like, who the heck is this? Who is she? Oh, she the girl who Ray J screwed. Ray J? What happened? You know, one wish, Ray J? You know, like he screwed, you know. So now we're looking at the sex tape, and it's like, oh, you gotta have a sex tape, and you gotta get your lips like this, your butt like this, your breast. This is the look. So now, and then we have a reality TV show. So now you'll find that after the reality TV show, a lot of young ladies start acting like them, start talking like them. You see, that is actually a ritual, because it's creating a simulated reality and then plugging you into that and saying, this is what, like, we have TV, we got regular TV. I don't even know they call it TV anymore, but we have regular programming, right? Programming. And then we have reality programming. Well, what is each one supposed to do? The regular programming just gives me what I want to aspire to. And like, oh, what if life could be like this? But reality program tells you this is what reality is. You see? Fake butts, fake this, fake that. Because now everybody wants a BBL. Everybody wants their breasts done. Sisters are getting even their faces done. Remember the sister who was on what's her name? Michaela. Can't remember her last name right now. She was on chewing gum. I never see sister. She's from the UK. Real beautiful sister, man. Super pretty, exotic looking sister. Chewing gum. I think that was the name of this. I like a lot of weird shows, man.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, she was in I think it was the second Black Panther as well. Michaela something. Somebody will find that in the chat. They'll look it up. You know, Michaela. Think of Michaela. But gorgeous sister, man. And she went and got work done. Now her face looks like, an inverted heart and stuff like that. And she's still very pretty, but it's like, Michaela, there we go, Michaela Coel.
Michaela Coel.
Yeah. She's our type of sister.
Oh, her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in a lot of shows in the UK.
That's how we want our women to look. We know that. You know what I mean? She ain't never really had no booty and no titties, nothing like that, but we all right with that. We know we all right with that. We've all had sisters like, well, she actually cool though. You know what I mean? That's my boo.
She's pretty though, but she pretty.
Yeah, she's pretty though. Right, she's pretty. That's my little flat butt pretty boo. We know we're okay with that. But then we watch reality TV, it's like, you ain't okay with that. You know you ain't okay with that.
Right.
You see? No, I thought I was okay. Nah, I know you want the BBL. Yeah. I guess maybe I do. you see?
Know what? That's funny. That's what that's usually their excuse. Like, well, why if you already pretty, why you do? Because that's what y'all brothers want.
That's what y'all want. I never told you I wanted that, but Estarte and Molek told you. Estarte and Molek said, Estarte said, this is what my face looks like. And we have to create this simulated reality, and we got to turn you all into Betty Boops. See, that's where you have also with these transformers. A big issue that they have in their community is that guys just want them for carnal pleasure. I don't even say sex, because but for carnal pleasure. They don't really want to have relationships with them. They don't want to hold their hand and walk down the street, and maybe he got some beard stubble that's growing back, and you might feel embarrassed, like, yeah, I'm with someone who was born a man and stuff like that. But you look at this individual, and they got their breasts, their chest done, so their chest looks like breasts. They got their hips done and their butt done, their lips, and they got part of their nose, so their features were softened. They're taking the pills. So you're like, man, that's good for just straight up sex. Because reality TV has programmed that into you. And you were watching the Super Bowl. And Usher was out there being all flexy sexy and flipping all over the place. And all the girls were going crazy. And then Taylor Swift, like I said, she's a child of Usher. So we don't forget how old some of these people are. Like, time moves fast. We over halfway through the year already. So we might be looking at Usher and not realizing he's an old head in the industry. So a lot of these younger artists now, they are the children of Usher. So all that sexy flexy, now they come out hypersexualized from being little children getting turned on at the Usher concert. You see, it's all a ritual. So everyone has to be hypersexual. Even female comedians have to look sexy on stage. You up there to tell jokes, and you got to put a tight dress on to tell jokes. You see, it's all one big ritual. So even your reality TV, it's programming what your reality is supposed to be. Let me see.
A lot of that jokes about how dirty they are anyway. Those female comedians. That's all they talk about.
Yeah, I was sucking this thing and I was sucking that thing and he was hitting it from the back and I wasn't feeling nothing, girl. And I'm like damn, you can't talk about like your new dish detergent or nothing. Like, like, talk about the streaks or the dishwasher. Like, yeah. It's got to be hypersexualized because this is the rise of Astarte. That feminine goddess energy is a very important energy because it disrupts moon energy. It disrupts those direct transmissions of pure femininity that you're getting from the moon. So now they turn the moon into a satellite and they say, okay, now we have to project goddess energy. You see, and then we'll call it the divine feminine. It was already divine before you started screwing with it. Yeah. All right, man. We're gonna close out. It's been beautiful as always. Thank you, brothers. I know we got some stuff in the chat. Sister Maria says, as I watched it, I had to break it up because it felt like I was in the middle of a ritual and as if a ritual was being done on my mind. Very unsettling. I'm assuming you're talking about the Squid Games. And yeah, man.
I think that's the Kardashian thing. That's when she put it in there.
Oh, the Kardashian thing. Yeah, well, that too. I mean, you see how cats go crazy when they mess with them Kardashian girls, man. You see what they did to Lamar Odom. He ain't been right since, man. You see what they witches, man. They witches of the highest caliber. Heck, look at what they did to Bruce. Man. See, y'all not old enough, man. But Bruce was like Michael Jordan back in the days when we was young. He was on the cereal box and all that. Like, if you was getting ready to run somewhere, that's what you would say. I'm like, well, or you'd be like, I'm like, Flojo, like she was a Pete's sister. I'm like, or like, I'm out of here like Bruce Jenner. Bruce Jenner's name was in rap songs. You know what I'm saying? Bruce Jenner, Reggie Jackson, like, so it's like, yeah, they have like, yeah, we got to fix that. We got something for that, But yeah, man. So yeah, give thanks, man. I see there's some action in the chat. And peace, James. I saw you pop up. Yeah, man. Oh, she was speaking of the Squid Games. Oh, yeah, okay, speaking of the Squid Games. Yeah, man. But that's if you want to learn a lot about Illuminati and the occult, I'll try to maybe do the breakdown before season 2 comes out because I saw some of the preview information for season 2 and 8. Yeah, it's even more occult energy in it, But that's a great show to break down, especially like it was like it was either the last episode or like second, third to the last. They were eating food. They had a table shaped like a triangle. And they were eating on a black and white checkered floor. That was straight Masonic. And remember, like the one that you saw was the 33rd Squid Game. That was Masonic, obviously 33rd to third degree. Like, and we just did the 33rd Olympics in Paris. Don't worry, we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. So I'm gonna get into some of that. But yeah, man, give thanks, man. Everybody came through, questions, answers, dropping gems into the space. We always appreciate that. And we'll be returning at noon tomorrow. And I'll be giving the insight. Like I said, I'm going to focus on a lot of signs and the symbols so you can read a little better some of the stuff that's happening. There's some interesting stuff happening while we're in the middle of World War III that you need to be aware of. We are in the middle of World War III. You need to understand what that means and really try to understand the symbols, the games that are being played. All right, we'll get into that. All right, everyone, give thanks. Give thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful evening, and I'll see you at noon. All right. Shalom.
Peace, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Peace, everybody.
Keep on. soul. We gave you God. They gave me God. I laugh, so I don't cry. Ha 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 ha. Don't you know you're royalty? They don't know. I be Manta. I be Manta. I be Manta. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. And I'll be Manta. I'll be Manta. I'll be Manta. I'll be Manta. Manta the king. Manta your king.
Not your boy, not your gal, not your buck, not your wench, not your slave, not your coon, not your shine, not your spade, not your jiggable, not your jungle bunny, not your mammy, not your pickaninny, not your tar baby, not your colored, not your citizen.
You can't have my soul. You can't have my soul. Can't have my soul. Can't have my soul. They will bleed just like we. Don't you know you're royalty? 'Cause they don't want you to see. Don't you know you're royalty? They don't live in harmony. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Hey, call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Hey, hey, call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. Call me Mandingo. I'll be Mansa. I'll be Mansa. Get free. 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 Call me Mandingo. You can call me Mandingo. You can call me Mandingo. Get free. But I'll be Mansa. King, 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 king.
6'1", 260 pounds. Do you think I was built for anything other than revolution, evolution? I'm ready. Keep on.
Perhaps I could have got away on beat for you catching me. You remember that? You remember that all day? You killed me. You remember that? You killed me. Niggas like you just prove what the Pecker would say. We're just beasts. Willing to do anything. Kill each other. No mind. No feeling. At least while I ain't gonna die like you gonna die. Like a slave. I ain't giving no lifetime of misery and sweat to this Peckerwood. I'd rather die than be a slave. You Peckerwood. That's right. You Peckerwood was oppressed in your own land. And you brought us here. But now we're here. And you just better know. This is just as much our land as it is yours. And after you hang me, kiss my ass. I'd rather die than be a slave.